She trespassed onto my ranch, then met the bear in my barn. My name is Jesse Tanner, 48 years old, born and raised in Montana, but moved to Oak Ridge, Texas 6 years ago after my brother died in a construction fall in El Paso. I took the insurance money, bought a rundown ranch on the outskirts of the valley, and started again. I came for the quiet. I stayed for Boone. Boone's a grizzly bear, real one. Brown coat, big as a mattress upright, with paws like dinner plates and the heart of a lazy golden retriever. I got him by accident. Literally, he wandered up to my shed 3 years ago after a fire tore through the wildlife preserve 20 miles east. I was going to call wildlife services. I didn't. Instead, I raised him, built a custom enclosure behind the barn, took classes online on enrichment, got him licensed through a wildlife sanctuary up north. He's not a pet. He's Boone. He's family. For 3 years, nobody gave me trouble. I kept my land clean. I fixed my fences. I paid my taxes and stayed away from the HOA developments a few miles south until Karen came. Her real name, Melanie Karen Dugan. Blonde, button-nosed, manicured like a Texas trophy wife. She'd moved into one of the new Heritage View mini mansions with her husband, who sold boat loans. I didn't notice her until the signs started going up. This neighborhood is protected by Briar Hills HOA. Problem was, I wasn't in Briar Hills. Hell, I wasn't even within 2 miles of the neighborhood gates. But Karen didn't care. She'd taken over their HOA board that spring and decided all adjacent properties were under a special zoning alliance, which meant she got to enforce community harmony. Her first message came in the form of a yellow ticket taped to my gate post. Unapproved fencing color, $200 fine due in 10 days. I laughed and tossed it. 2 days later, she came back in a person, pulled up in a white Lexus, marched out in yoga pants, took pictures of my barn, my chicken coop, the bear enclosure, didn't say a word to me, just snapped and left. The next day, another ticket. Unpermitted exotic animal. $1, $200 fine plus removal notice. This time, I didn't laugh. This time, I went to the sheriff. Sheriff Mendez raised an eyebrow so high it nearly left his forehead. You say a woman from Briar Hills tried to fine you for owning a licensed animal on land outside their zone. That's what I said. He shook his head. We've had a few complaints about her already, but unless she physically enters your property, it's a civil matter. Paper nonsense. Civil. Right. He didn't know Karen. The next week, I came back from town and found the gate open, the bear enclosure unlocked. Boone was still in the barn. Thank God. Snoozing like the oversized toddler he is. But my tool shed had been broken into. My game cameras were gone, and there were footprints small, delicate, and unmistakably sandal-wearing near the barn's rear door. She'd been here. She'd entered my ranch. She just didn't know what was waiting for her. It happened on a Tuesday. Tuesdays were always quiet. Boone knew it too. I didn't run equipment, didn't ride the ATV. I usually just cleaned the stables, fixed what needed fixing, and let the land breathe. So when I heard the front gate clang open around 10:30 a.m., I knew something was wrong. I moved slow, quiet. My boots crushed dry gravel in steady rhythm as I came around the side of the barn and saw the Lexus again. Karen, alone. This time, she wasn't just taking pictures. She had bolt cutters in one hand, a clipboard in the other, and she was walking straight toward the barn doors. I shouted, "You have 5 seconds to turn around." She didn't flinch, just looked over her shoulder like I was the trespasser. "I'm documenting a code violation," she snapped. "You've been notified. This animal is illegal. You're trespassing on private land. You're harboring a threat to the community. I'm invoking emergency HOA override. There's no HOA here." She didn't listen. She opened the barn, and Boone was right there. Now let me be clear. Boone's not a trained attack bear. He's not violent, but he's a bear. 900 pounds of curiosity, mood swings, and territorial instinct. He doesn't like strangers, especially strangers who walk into his home with loud voices and bad perfume. He didn't charge. He didn't roar. He stood, and that was enough. Karen screamed, backpedaled, slammed her back into the feed bin. Her clipboard flew. Her bolt cutters hit the floor. Boone grunted once and licked his paw. I walked past him. I closed the doors behind me and stood face to face with her. "This is your final warning," I said. "Set foot on my land again, and I won't be the one you answer to." She didn't argue. But as she peeled out down the drive, I saw the look in her eyes through the windshield. It wasn't fear. It was calculation. That night, the sheriff called me. "Jesse," Mendez said, his voice low, "you got a permit for that bear." Since day one, well, brace yourself. Karen Dugan filed a complaint, claimed the bear charged her, says you're harboring a wild threat and failing to meet enclosure standards. She's pushing for an emergency seizure. I laughed once, short and sharp. "She entered my barn, Sheriff. I've got every minute of it on camera." "Good," he said. "You might need it." But it wasn't just the sheriff Karen was calling. It was animal control, county code, the fire department, the news. By Thursday, Channel 7 was at the end of my drive. "Sir, do you house a live grizzly bear on site? He's registered, permitted, and enclosed. Are you aware there's a petition going around claiming your animal nearly mauled a concerned community member?" I slammed the gate shut, and that's when the rumors started flying. Reckless cowboy keeps wild animal for TikTok fame. HOA hero tries to save neighborhood from unhinged loner. Sources say bear broke through barn wall. None of it was true, but the more Karen talked, the more it spread. I wasn't just the guy with a bear anymore. I was a threat, a walking lawsuit, and Karen, she'd become a martyr. I drove down to the feed store that weekend. The guy behind the counter, Tim, someone I'd known for years, didn't meet my eye. "You hearing what people are saying?" he asked. "I'm hearing what Karen's saying." "Well, they're listening to her. She's telling folks you built the whole setup illegally, that you're not part of any HOA, so there's no oversight. That's because there is no HOA out here. She says there was once, says your land was exempted illegally years ago, that she's trying to reinstate the original charter." I stood still. The walls buzzed, and I realized Karen wasn't just being nosy. She was trying to claim this land. You ever been lied about so hard you start questioning your own memory? That's where I was the week after Karen broke into my barn. Social media had me labeled a threat to the neighborhood. Some even said Boone was a trained attack bear, that I sicked on trespassers like a lunatic prepping for civil war. I stopped going into town. My feed store stopped delivering. A drone buzzed overhead one morning, and Boone tried to swipe it midair. That's when I knew I had to go on offense. So I started digging. First stop, County Records Office. I wanted to prove that my ranch was never, ever part of the Briar Hills HOA. 30 minutes in, I found it a 1989 zoning map. Oak Ridge Ranches. My section of land was explicitly listed as agricultural, non-subdivided, and exempt from all future community charter overlays. There it was, black and white. Then I pulled up Karen's claim. She'd submitted a restoration request to the HOA board, citing a clerical error in the 1994 replatting when Briar Hills expanded. Claimed my parcel had been left out due to oversight. She was trying to annex my ranch, not just to find me, to absorb me, to fence my land, rezone it residential, and get this, develop it into a wildlife experience center for private HOA members. I looked at the attached file. There was a rendering, a fake concept drawing of my barn with the Boone enclosure labeled Bear Sanctuary Pavilion. They even photoshopped the bear. Boone's face was on a brochure. They planned to turn him into a damn attraction. I drove straight to the sheriff's office. This time, I brought the folder, the footage, the map. The emails I'd intercepted from a mutual connection in the county clerk's office. Karen had been pushing this annexation plan for 6 months, secretly lobbying board members and offering value appreciation packages if they helped her push it through. Bribes, in all but name. Mendez took one look and whistled. "She's deeper into this than I thought," he muttered. "You got more." Yeah, I said, you got a projector. The next day was the Briar Hills Open HOA hearing. Public. Recorded. Karen strutted into the town hall in a pastel pantsuit and pearls, armed with a stack of printouts, 4 maps, and a fake smile. She had a whole slideshow prepared. I let her talk. 15 minutes in, she stood next to a slide showing my ranch recolored in blue, and with the restoration of zoning oversight, she said, we can increase property values by over 12% in the Northern Tract, attract ecotourism partnerships. And excuse me, I said, standing up from the back. Karen's face paled. I have a few documents to submit for the record. I continued. The room went silent as I walked forward and handed them over. Zoning deeds, drone footage, the clip of her inside my barn, the photos of her bolt cutters, and, of course, her ridiculous brochure with Boone's face on it. The audience gasped. One older couple stood up and walked out shaking their heads. A man at the back muttered, she said it was all donated land. Karen looked like someone had pulled the bones out of her spine. She tried to speak, failed. And the board president leaned forward slowly and said, Melanie, did you break into his property? Silence. I was conducting enforcement of an HOA that doesn't apply to him. Another board member, a retired judge, spoke next. You forged development documents? No. He has footage of you inside a barn with a wild bear? The whole room exhaled. Someone started clapping. Karen was done. But I wasn't, because the documents she left behind, they showed other parcels she was eyeing, other ranchers she'd flagged for reabsorption. She was running a quiet land grab under the guise of community safety. This wasn't about fences. This was about power. And it was time people knew it. The week after the hearing, I stopped being alone. It started small, just a knock on my door 2 days later. A woman in a denim jacket, silver hair tied back in a tight braid. You don't know me, she said. Name's Maria Collins. I live on Glen Cove. Karen's been after my place too. Said my vegetable garden violates aesthetic continuity. I've been here 27 years. I nodded. She held up a folder. Inside a fine for a $40 flower pot. She's not just harassing people, Maria said. She's clearing the board, getting ready to rebuild it with only her pieces left. She wasn't wrong, so I started calling around. Clyde, the old cowboy whose horses grazed just west of me, Karen had flagged his fencing as unsafe for pedestrian access, even though his land had no sidewalks. Jim and Kathy, the couple with solar panels, she told them they needed to repaint to match roof tones. Elena, a widowed artist, got a violation for her wind chimes being distracting to migrating birds. It was coordinated, cold, and relentless. So we started meeting, first at my ranch, then at Clyde's barn, then at the feed store after hours. We brought our letters, our fines, our photos. We compared stories, and then came the email. From a burner Gmail account, sent to all of us at once. You have been identified as non-conforming property owners. Your assets are being reviewed for potential community realignment. Do not obstruct progress. No name, no signature. But the header showed the original was sent from a Briar Hills HOA officer's IP. Karen's. We were angry, but we were smart. We didn't threaten. We called ourselves the Ridge Alliance, everybody she tried to isolate, linked now by the same chain she used to bind us. We drafted an open letter, we bought a quarter-page ad in the local paper, and the headline read, Fake HOA. Real harassment. This is our line in the dirt. It blew up. Channel 7 ran a full segment on it. Karen went silent for 3 days. Then her lawyer started speaking for her. Statements like misunderstanding, misfiled oversight, deep community concern. But we weren't interested in apologies. We wanted protection. We met with county planning. We brought the forged documents, the boundary disputes, the drone footage. We showed them how she used the HOA as a front for land control threatening owners, issuing fake violations, and lobbying developers behind the scenes. The county froze all Briar Hills expansion permits pending investigation. Karen lost access to the registry system. Her power started to slip. But like any tyrant losing ground, she didn't go quietly. 2 nights later, someone cut the wire on Boone's enclosure. They left the gate open. I found it before dawn. Boone was still asleep in the hay. Thank God, but that was it. I filed a formal criminal complaint. Trespass, animal endangerment, tampering with agricultural infrastructure. Mendez called that afternoon. We got a match. He said, security cam at the co-op caught a Lexus heading westbound at 2:17 a.m. License plate matches hers. They brought her in. She posted bail within the hour. But this time, the community was watching. At the next town board meeting, the room overflowed. Farmers, ranchers, teachers, retirees. We came with receipts. One by one, we spoke. How she fined us, threatened us, how she used fake titles, fake maps, fake laws. A reporter in the corner kept scribbling. When I stood up, I didn't bring anything. Just looked around and said, raise your hand if she's come after you. More than half the room lifted their hands. Some were shaking, some were fists. Karen didn't show. She resigned from the HOA the next day due to stress and personal safety concerns. But we weren't done. The Ridge Alliance became official. We filed articles of incorporation, built our own community board volunteer run, no mandatory dues, no forced aesthetics, just respect for the land and each other. We printed the mission on a canvas and nailed it to the old cottonwood by the crossroads. No fences between neighbors unless they're for cows. They say karma is slow, but when it hits, it doesn't walk. It gallops. 3 weeks after the Ridge Alliance went public, the county district attorney filed formal charges against Karen for trespassing on agricultural land, reckless endangerment of wildlife, forgery of municipal documents, attempted coercion through fraudulent governance. The case became a local media storm. Every paper ran the same photo: Karen, caught mid-stride exiting the courthouse, sunglasses barely covering the scowl etched into her face. I didn't smile when I saw it. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because we deserved better long before this even happened. The trial was short. Too many receipts, too much footage, too many victims. What really nailed her wasn't even the barn. It was a hidden clause in one of the fake fines she issued to an elderly widow. The clause tried to lien her home in case of non-payment. That was predatory real estate fraud. The jury didn't even take a full day. Guilty. Karen was sentenced to 6 months of house arrest, 3 years probation, and a permanent ban from holding any administrative office in a residential or agricultural association. She tried to buy land with intimidation. She left town with a for sale sign hanging from her own porch. But something else happened in that courtroom. People started talking again, not just about HOA abuse or Karen or fake fines, but about how easy it had been for her to climb so high. Because the truth, she didn't forge power. We gave it to her, with our silence, with our "it's not my fight," with our fear of making waves. And I get it. I really do. We're tired people. Farming, ranching, working. We don't look for drama. But silence lets people like Karen build kingdoms. Fences not of wood, but fear. So we took them down. Post by post, board by board. The Ridge Alliance set up weekly gatherings, potlucks, swap meets, even a used tractor day. We helped each other fix fences and roofs. Clyde started teaching free horsemanship to the neighborhood kids. Maria got her garden certified as a community food share. And Boone, he became a local legend. Kids painted murals of him on the old feed barn wall. Tourists came by to take photos from outside the gate. We never charged a dime. Because we weren't building a zoo, we were rebuilding trust. People ask me now, do you ever regret keeping a bear in your barn? I laugh. Nope. I say, I regret not installing a bigger camera system. But seriously, Boone was never the threat. Karen was, and it took the bear for people to see it. Maybe that's the strangest part. Sometimes, the wildest thing on your land isn't the animal, It's the person who thinks they can own what was never theirs to begin with. Have you or someone you know been targeted by an overreaching HOA or a power-hungry neighbor? These stories aren't just drama, they reflect deeper issues about power, property, and justice. Share your thoughts below. Speak out against fake authority. Support community over control, because respect isn't enforced with fines. It's earned with integrity,